Lithuania ramps up security at its power grid ahead of next month's planned decoupling from Russian electricity grid.
A political analyst says an EU shift in power is inevitable if Austrian far-right leader Herbert Kickl successfully forms a government.
The EU Commission dismisses incoming US President Donald Trump's threats to annex Greenland, an autonomous territory that belongs to the Kingdom of Denmark.
A sixth fire has broken out in Los Angeles' Hollywood Hills area as authorities continue to fight blazes across the city. Lithuania says it's ramping up security around its power grid ahead of a planned decoupling from Russia's electricity grid next month. Lithuania's Prime Minister Gintautas Paluckas says the government has asked police forces to take over protection of the Litpol link. Security of the power link shared with Poland was outsourced to a private security company last month. The previous government had contracted them to guard some of the Litpol's assets until springtime. But Paluckas has opted to speed up that timeline to next week, assigning the country's public security service to take over.
Pasitelkta būtent viešo saugumo tarnyba, kuri turi daugiausia patirties tokių kritiškai svarbių objektų apsaugoje ir jie keis privačią saugos tarnybą, kuri iki šiol kai kurios objektus saugoja.
Vilnius says it's been observing attempts by its opponents to disrupt the planned decoupling from the Russian power grid. Officials provided assurances that the country has enough reserves, and all scenarios evaluated indicates that there will be no power outages. They've also issued a message to those attempting to disrupt their plans.
Ir turbūt viena svarbiausių žinučių, kurią mes norime ištransliuoti, yra tai, kad nepaisant bet kokių provokacijų, kurios galėtų įvykti, bet kokių incidentų, atsijungimas nuo BREL, tai yra nuo Rusijos elektros tinklų, yra neišvengiamas ir jis įvyks lygiai už mėnesio.
Lithuania plans to disconnect from the Russian electricity grid on the 8th of February. They will then take over the responsibility of running their own national grids for their power needs.
A shift in power within the European Union is inevitable if Austrian far-right leader Herbert Kickl forms a government, according to a political analyst. Kickl and his Freedom Party are currently preparing for potential coalition talks with the conservative OVP party.
Keine Frage, mit einem Bundeskanzler Kickl kommt es natürlich auch zu einer tendenziellen leichten Machtverschiebung auch innerhalb der Europäischen Union.
Kickl's party secured victory in recent parliamentary elections, surpassing outgoing Chancellor Karl Nehammer and his party, which came in second. The Austrian president initially tasked Nehammer with forming a government. However, the OVP refused to enter a coalition with the Freedom Party under Kickl, leading to a political stalemate. Kickl was then greenlit to attempts to form a coalition.
Ich würde mal sagen, er braucht einmal einen symbolischen Leuchtturm, ein symbolisches Bild. Das wird sicher in der Migration- und Integrationsfrage sein. Er muss aber auch signalisieren, dass er so etwas wie ein Reformer ist. Das heißt, er muss zumindest Akzente setzen, die die Vorgängerregierung nicht gesetzt hat.
If Kickl succeeds in forming a coalition, it would be the first far-right government in Austria since World War II.
Authorities in Spain's Canary Islands say some 780 migrants have arrived in the last 24 hours, continuing the unprecedented and record-breaking influx of arrivals from last year. Local officials said the migrants arrived in 10 boats on the islands of Lanzarote and El Hierro. The first migrant arrivals of the year come after a record year where more than 43,000 migrants arrived in the Spanish archipelago islands.
Co-owner of the Jasmine catering company based in Berlin, Fadi arrived as a Syrian refugee in Germany in 2013. Originally born in Damascus, Fadi feels at home in Berlin and has even catered for former German Chancellor Angela Merkel. But how has his journey been over the past 12 years?
Ich liebe Berlin, ich liebe Deutschland, weil wirklich, wir hatten viele mit großen Herzen die ganze Stadt geöffnet. Also sie haben uns unterstützt, um die Sprache zu lernen. Unterstützung mit dem Business anzufangen. Die lokale Gesellschaft war sehr offen. Mit dem Catering, die allererste Unterstützung war von Lokale. Also wirklich, wir wollen wohl und Teil von der Gesellschaft hier in Berlin, in Deutschland.
And how does Fadi see Germany's recent decision to freeze asylum applications for Syrians?
In Deutschland es gibt die Integrationprogramm. Also es gibt viele Leute, die sich integriert in Deutschland, von Syrien, von anderen Ländern. Aber auch es gibt die Leute, die sich nicht richtig integriert. Ich bin der Meinung, das ist zwei Weg Unterhaltung. Einmal von der Behörde von hier, das ein starkes Integrationsprogramm anzubieten für die Flüchtlinge hier, damit sie sich in den Arbeitsmarkt schneller integriert. Aber es gibt einen Teil von den Leuten, die machen nichts eigentlich. Das muss ein irgendwelche klare Programm für sie zurückzubringen. Aber nicht für alle und nicht stoppen den Prozess.
In Italy, despite processing fewer Syrian asylum requests than any other EU member state, the government decided to pause applications. Human rights organisations have condemned the move.
L'Italia è stata il primo Stato dell'Unione Europea a riaprire un'ambasciata a Damasco, come a dire in Siria è tutto a posto. In realtà in Siria nulla è a posto. Da questo punto di vista la decisione del nostro Paese di sospendere a tempo indeterminato le procedure d'asilo è semplicemente scellerata. Tra l'altro è anche in contrasto con una direttiva del 2013 dell'Unione Europea e con un decreto legge italiano del 2008.
France also announced a temporary freeze on Syrian asylum claims. As the country faces an uncertain future, organisations are requesting France put exceptional measures in place.
Il existe dans la loi des dispositifs exceptionnels qui permettent le retour de réfugiés protégés par la protection internationale sans qu'ils perdent leur statut. Donc on demande à l'État français de mettre en œuvre ce dispositif pour que tous ceux qui sont des graines de la liberté et de la démocratie, qui sont venus se réfugier en France, puissent retourner dans leur pays et le semer.
The future US president's threats to Greenland, which belongs to Denmark, have received a timid response from Brussels. Although Donald Trump has not ruled out a military intervention to annex the island, a spokesperson for the European Commission has defined it as fairly wild hypothetical stuff.
A question were on the topic. Angela? Many threats and which did not materialize, and we don't see any need at this moment in time to go beyond what we have said.
Trump had already expressed interest in buying the Danish autonomous territory during his previous term in office and has now given his desire a new impetus with a visit by his son to Greenland. But both Denmark and Greenland's prime ministers have reiterated that Greenland is not for sale and that its sovereignty belongs to its citizens. Brussels also insists on this point.
Just as a matter of principle, for us it is clear the sovereignty of states has to be respected.
The melting of the Arctic ice, which opens up the possibility of exploiting Greenland's natural resources as well as increasing maritime routes in the area, are key to understanding Trump's fixation. However, Brussels recalls that the mutual protection clause between member states in the event of military intervention would also apply for Greenland.
No respite for Los Angeles. A sixth fire broke out in the iconic Hollywood Hills neighborhood in the early hours of Thursday. Firefighters in the Los Angeles County area have been battling multiple wildfires that have been scorching the city since Tuesday morning. Officials say at least 5 people were killed in the blazes. Fires are spreading at a rapid rate due to the fast wind speeds.
We are still facing strong and erratic winds. In Palisades and in Sylmar, we are very much in an active firefight.
And the celebrity favorite Pacific Palisades neighborhood was hit the hardest. The Palisades fires estimated to have damaged more than 1,000 structures, mostly homes. Many Hollywood A-list celebrities suffered serious losses. Paris Hilton's beachfront Malibu family home was burnt to the ground in the fire, and hundreds of other properties succumbed to the same fate.
About 5 of my friends' house burned down. Wow. That live up the street, and when it's a wind-driven fire, there's nothing that very little we can do.
The fires have cast thick clouds of smoke and ash across multiple areas in LA. Authorities say the air quality has worsened significantly and urge residents of the affected areas to stay indoors and remain alert.
Israeli airstrikes in southern Gaza killed around 20 people, nearly all of whom were women or children, according to local health authorities. 5 children were killed as they sheltered together in the same tent, according to the director of the children's ward at a Khan Yunis hospital. Their bodies were amongst 8 children and 5 women brought to the hospital after strikes reportedly tore into tents for displaced Palestinians, a car and 2 houses. Israel claimed to have targeted militants who'd taken part in the October the 7th, 2023 attack which sparked the war, but did not provide evidence. Israel blamed Hamas for the civilian casualties. The ongoing war in Gaza is raging with no end in sight and has killed tens of thousands of Palestinians, more than half of whom are women and children, according to local health authorities.
Euronews. The news